Okay, I'm going to go through the figured bass practice sheet that you got. It's 8 lines of all the complex minor scales or keys, and then it's got sort of progressively different figured bass as it goes along. This is, if you think about this takes 5 minutes per line. It's going to be 40 minutes. It'll take longer than that because of intro, and I'll discuss my choices along the way. So feel free to speed 1.5 or 0.2 or 2.0 this video along the way, or skip to the lines that you need help with. Basically, this is a process of 3 things that we're going to do. And I said lead sheet symbols here. Really, what I mean is just root of the chord. So, and if you struggle with any aspect of this, you can probably divide this into several different things. Like, at second year, you shouldn't have a problem reading any kind of bass clef at all. That shouldn't be an issue, though you might forget your key signatures. Okay, so that's one thing. Interpreting the figured bass to get the root of the chord in the scale. We'll put those roots up here. That might be something that you need to practice. And then, of course, getting the right chord quality and using the key signature or interpreting the figured bass to give you, like alterations to the scale or something might be something else. I'm going to go along here fairly quickly. I know that in class with different people, we've done some of this. Like I said, skip ahead to the line that you need. This is going to be a fairly long video, but worthy of your time for review. If you're at all feeling unsure about this, if you've got this down, you can just go ahead and do it without me as fast and not listen. But if you need some help, check through. So I'm in the key of C sharp minor. 6s mean that this is the 3rd of a chord, right? Nothing means that those are the roots of the chord. 6/4 means that this is the 5th of the chord. And 7 means that this is a root position chord with a 7th on top. The sharp means that there's an invisible, like 7, 5, 3, and the sharp always goes to the invisible 3. These fade from our view and we don't use them. And so that's just a shorthand. So here we go. This means that this is a C sharp in the root, C sharp in the root. And then here, this is a B in the root, okay? There's no alterations to any of the notes or the figured bass, and so we just go what's in the key signature, okay? This will be another C sharp in the root because that's the 3rd, and this will be a D sharp, D sharp. It's a root of this chord. This has got nothing, so it's an E. This is another D sharp, okay? This would be the 5th, so there's my root right there, C sharp. This is a root position chord. It's going to be a G sharp, and then A, just plain old A, right? And now I'm going to go backwards for these, but the next step is to say, well, what in the key of C sharp is A? And that's 6. And then you also have to remember that 6 chords in minor are major, right? A, C sharp, E. This G sharp chord here would have a 7th, so it's going to be a 5 chord because 5 is G sharp in this key. But it's also a major triad minor 7 because with this here on the 3 above the figured bass, that would be like a G sharp, B sharp, D sharp. It's not in the key signature, but it's from there. And then F sharp, and that's a G sharp dominant 7 chord. So that makes a 5/7 chord. This is a 1/6/4, right? But we like to remember that this is all just a 5 chord together when you see this kind of figuration. And then we can just kind of go backwards. Here's my 2 chord. Remember that 2 chords are diminished in minor keys. This is my 3 chord. 3 chords are major chords in minor keys. This is this again, but inverted, so it's still a 2 diminished 6. Okay, this is my 1 chord. I'm just going to do all of these right here. 1, 1, 1. And this is the one that we should talk about. B, D sharp, F sharp from the key signature makes that a B major chord. This is not leading tone 7. If I'm in the key of C sharp minor, B sharp is my 7 diminished chord, but B is my subtonic 7 chord, and it's a major triad. Remember that this is from our harmonic minor scale. This is from our natural minor scale, okay? And so we have to make sure that we recognize that this is a whole step below the key note, which makes it called subtonic, as opposed to a half step below, B sharp, which would be leading tone, right? So I've got to put a 7 here, but it needs to be uppercase like that. All right, moving on. Key of B flat minor. This is a B flat chord because it's there. This is going to be the third of the chord, so that's an F, which is going to be my 5 chord, or we'll get to that in a minute. F chord, back to B flat chord. This is my root. Sorry, my root is right here, not there. And this time, well, you see how there's not a natural on here? It's just from the key signature, so that's A flat. So that's going to be an A flat chord, not an A chord, right? And then here is the third from this chord, B flat. Third of this chord, so C, which is going to be C. I'm not worrying about qualities of chords, I just want to get the right location. This is the root of the chord, so it's an F chord. This is the fifth of the chord now, so it's a B flat chord, B flat, D flat, or B flat, D flat, F, right? Like that. And then this is an F chord again. All right, let's go from the front this time. B flat, 1 chord is minor. Okay, then F chord, which would often be, or sometimes be F, A flat, C, but the A has been naturaled, so it's going to be a major one right there, okay? And then B flat again is my 1 chord. Now, if A flat is my root, right, A flat, then that's my 7 chord, but it's not a half step below again. A flat is my subtonic 7, it's a whole step below, it's a major triad, and A natural would come from my harmonic minor, and it would be a half step below that, would be 7 diminished. So this is a subtonic 7. Now I'll be honest, minor 5s, like the one over here, and subtonic 7s are not as common, but for this worksheet I'm sort of mixing and matching so you get more practice and familiarity with it. 1 chord, right, and it's minor. 2 chords are diminished, right, so I got to put that there. So this is my F chord. Remember that this natural floating here, there's an invisible 5-3. It always goes with the invisible 3 because this is a third above the root and a fifth above the root, F, A, C. And so it's F, A flat, A natural because of that right there, altering it. So this is a major 5 chord, okay? And here's my B flat chord right here, and it's minor, right, like that. And then we're back again to my F chord again with the natural there, like that. Okay, still in frame. I'm gonna fold this over. We'll move to line 3. Okay, here we go. Line 3, D sharp minor, one of my favorite keys. Starts off in a different place. This is the root, so that's going to be A sharp, right, because of the key signature, right? This is the third, so G sharp is my root, A sharp, right, back again, and then this is my third, so it's going to be down here, which is an E sharp. That is a feature of D sharp minor, right? Okay, and then this is third of the chord, so this is another D sharp chord, right? I'm not, just want to remind you in case you've jumped in the middle, I'm not calling out the roots of these, well, I'm calling out the roots of these chords, but this is an F sharp, but because of the 6 right there, D sharp, it's a third of the chord, so the root's a third down, right? Here's the root of the chord because there's nothing, so that's going to be G sharp. This was a D sharp, well, F sharp plus the down a third for the root, so that's a D sharp chord. This is a C sharp chord because third down is a C sharp because of the key signature. I'm back to D sharp in a root. This is my C sharp chord here again. This is my D sharp chord again. And here is, well, a new figured bass symbol we haven't talked about, or you should know, but this is review. So 6 means really that there's a note a third above and a sixth above, right? This is the root, and the invisible 3 right there is the fifth, so third, fifth, and then root up there. And if you see a 6 like this floating around with a 6-5, well, it's the same thing, okay? It's a 6-3, but it's got a 5 in there, so it's still the third of a chord, but this is my root, and that's my 7th. So the difference between 6 that you see in shorthand and 6-5 is it's still the third of a chord, but now the 5 indicates that that's the 7th of the chord has been added, right? The 6 is where the root is, right? If you go up a 6th or down a third, right? Go up a 6th, and then this tells me that there's a 5th there. So this is the third of a chord. That means you still come down right here like that. So the root is going to be A sharp again, and we'll deal with the 7th later, and then back to D sharp. All right, I will go from the front here. Okay, so root position chord, A sharp, right? Now there's no alterations to this. There's no naturals or double sharps or anything like that. So let's look at what it would be spelled like. Normally, our most common 5 chord is a major triad or a dominant chord, but then you have to alter it using the harmonic minor. There are none here, so you spell it according to the key signature. A sharp, C sharp, E sharp, that's A sharp minor. That makes it a minor 5, not a major 5. Major 5 would look like this, right? But we just want to use a minor 5 right there because there's no alteration to the key. All right, this is a G sharp chord. G sharp is the 4 chord. There's no alterations. 4 chords are minor. Okay, back to my 5 again, right there. And then here's an E sharp chord because G sharp is the 3rd of the chord. E sharp right there. And E sharp is my 2 chord. Yes, 2 chords are diminished, right? Because E sharp, G sharp, and B, right? And then this is a D sharp chord. This is my 3rd right here. That's a 1 chord, like this, okay? My G sharp chord is another 4 chord, no inversion this time. It's also minor. Minor. C sharp is, well, it's below this right here. And again, we have to ask ourselves, well, what does that look like? If I have C sharp, that's a whole step below there. So that's my subtonic. If I had C double sharp, that would be a half step below there, and that would be my leading tone chord. This has got no alterations, so when I go down to the root right there, a 3rd down, right? That's just a plain old C sharp, so this is a subtonic 7. I did mention earlier I'm getting a lot of these kind of things in here so you get practice telling the two apart. And D sharp is my 1 chord. C sharp, again, same deal exactly. It's going to be my subtonic 7, like that. D sharp is my 1 chord. Now here we are with my A sharp chord, but there's an accidental. So A sharp, C double sharp, E sharp because of the key signature, G sharp because of the key signature. I'll write this out for you so you can see it in order. If I went like A, C, E, G, that would be minor. If I went sharp, that would be dominant. If I went sharp because of the key signature, that because of the accidental, and I sharped everything, it would still be a dominant, but it starts on A sharp. So this is a proper 5 chord. Dominant, major triad, minor 7, A sharp, C double sharp, E sharp, G sharp, right? And then finally my 1 chord right there, right? Again, you can assess for yourself. Is figuring out the figured bass, like what that means, is it the root, the 3rd, the 5th, that kind of thing, does that work for you? If not, then you just practice the numbers, right? Is it figuring out what the note is on the staff using the key signature? If so, then you have to start practicing that and saying, you know, getting used to, therefore I calculate down a 3rd, or I calculate down a 5th, or something like that. Is it dealing with the minor keys? Well, practice those more. Is it understanding the difference between the harmonic minor note, right, where you raise the 7 back up so it's a half step below, or you leave it and it's a whole step below? That's another like variant scale thing, okay? All right, we're gonna move on to the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, we're halfway when we get this one done, and you can take a break after this maybe, or maybe you're just jumping around and so you're not even hearing all this. But this is a root position chord, so that's 1, right? Well, I'm still gonna go through like this, F sharp, right? This means that this is, when you see the 6 like this, that's the 3rd of the chord, and that there's a 7th on this chord as well. So that's the 3rd. Here's my root, right? So that's also an F sharp chord, right? And then if this went up a step and it's still the 3rd, this is going to be F sharp. Sorry, I'm still back in the old key signature. We're in F minor, so F and the F. Sorry about that. And this will be a G. And then this here, it says that it's a C with a natural. So it's going to be C, E natural, G, right? We'll worry about that later, but it's a root position chord. This is the root of the chord still, so it's still going to be a C chord like that, okay? And then 7 right here, well, this is my 1 chord. Again, it's my F chord, right? Because this is just 7, 5, 3. It's like a triad with the 7th on top, root position. And then here, this is the root of the chord. So that's going to be, sorry, 3rd of the chord. So that's my root of the chord right there. So this is a G chord. And then C is my root again. All right, let's go through these. F chord is 1, right? F chord still, but in first inversion, it's still going to be a minor 1, but it's going to be with the 7th, okay? This is my G chord. That's my 2. Now remember that 2 chords are diminished triads, but they're half diminished 7th chords because they have a diminished triad and a minor 7th. Okay? 5 chord right here. It's got the natural sign, so it's C, E natural, G. So that's going to make it major, right? Not minor. And then this is on the given note, so it's still going to be C, E natural, G, but there's a, like this indicates that there's a 7th on the chord, so it's going to be a B flat. So this is a 5-7 chord, dominant, right? Major triad and stuff like that, uppercase. But this means this will have the 7th on it right there. Here's my 1 chord again, coming after the 5. It's a minor chord, it's a minor 7th chord. Here's my 2 chord again. So it's 2 diminished this time because there's no 7th, so it can't be half diminished. That's only when there's a 7th on it, diminished. And then here's my 5 chord again. All right. So should you take a break now? That's up to you. I'm going to keep going. Try and get this video done in about 40 minutes or so. Just doing the math. 5 minutes per line talking about it. Transitions like this. All right. Let's keep going. A flat minor, everything's flat. If it's not, well, then we have to deal with what that does to chord qualities. So let's have a look at these different things here. First off, root position chord, so A flat, right? This is the 3rd of a chord, so that'll be an E flat chord right there, right? This is my F flat, but it's the 3rd. Again, 3rd of the chord with 7ths on, so this is going to be a D flat chord. And this here is the root of a chord, that's an E flat chord, and another E flat chord, right? And then here, this is going to go down to there, so it's going to be a D flat chord. This is going to go down to there for the root because 6 and then 6 5s, right? All 3rds of chords, right? That's going to be an E flat. And this is the 5th of a chord right here, so it's going to be, right there is my root. That's going to be, what, a D flat, right? That's going to be funky sounding, but that's okay. And then here, this just tells me that we've come back down to like a 5-3 or something. It's letting me know that it's not 6-4 hanging over, but we've reset. So this is nothing here, really. 5-3 is the same thing as nothing. It's a root position chord, so A flat. All right. Let's interpret these. This is a 1 chord, okay? This is a E flat chord, which is a 5 chord, but there are no alterations to the key, which means this is going to be spelled E flat, G flat, B flat, D flat, which is a minor 7 chord. So this is a minor 5 chord right there with the 7th on it. Okay, D flat, F flat, A flat, and C flat. This is going to be a minor chord as well. This is my 4 chord. That's completely normal. And then here's my 5 chord right again. And again, it's still spelled minor, right? There's no alteration. There's no harmonic minor. I think the justification for this is partly I'm building these things so you have to think about them for the practice, but as we're heading down, we're not going to do, right? It's not pulling us back to the 1 chord, and so they just use the normal scale going down, giving us minor 7s and stuff like that. But here the natural shows up, and remember, that's an invisible thing like that. So on the 3rd of the chord, 3rd above there, which makes it be E flat, G natural, and then B flat and D flat. And that's an E dominant 7 chord, so we're going to use uppercase right there. And this is because we're heading back to the 1 chord eventually, rising up, and so we're using dominant function chord rather than minor 7 function chord. All right, D flat, F, A flat, and that would be the chord right here. Because this is there, right, it's altered it. D flat, F, A flat, that's a major chord. It's rare, but when you use the melodic minor and you end up on a 4 chord, this lay note becomes law and you get a major 4. Happens as a passing chord quite often, or a neighbor chord for flavor. And then here I am with my E flat chord again, but the G has been naturalized in the music right there, so it's a proper dominant 7 chord. Okay. And then this is a little bit of a weird thing, but this is my minor 4. It's going to sound a little weird, but it's good for practice. And then let's go back to my minor 1 right there, like that. Okay. All right, moving on. G sharp minor. Well, I guess we could just start right here. If this is my 3rd of the chord, because 6-5 like that, that means that that's a D. So this is going to be my D sharp chord because of the key signature, right? Here's my 1 chord or G sharp chord right there, right? Now, I'm going to take a moment to explain this. I've mentioned this to some people in class, but or on the side, but I just want to, it's like, what do we do with this? Well, if you had 6, 4 right here, that would have been the fifth of the chord, and the root would be a fifth down. And it's no different here. This is the fifth of the chord, so the root is down here. There's my third, there's my fifth. So this is like an F sharp chord, okay? This just indicates that there's a seventh on the chord, okay? Now, we usually don't see the full hand version of this, but that's where it comes from. 6/4 means triad with the fifth on top or in your bass. 6/4/3 means it's still the fifth of the chord in the bass, but it's a triad and a seventh or a seventh chord right there. Normally, we see it like this with the 6 being invisible because we just presume it's there. So when you see 6/4/3, remind yourself that it's just like 6/4, fifth of the bass, right? But if you don't see the 6 and you just see the 4/3, the 6 is still floating out there. It's just invisible. It only shows up when you have to alter it or something like that. Okay, so 6/4/3, 4/3, both means fifth in the bass, but it's a seventh chord. Okay. Okay, coming back here, third of the chord, so G sharp chord right here. I'm going to erase some of this other mess right here so it's a little easier to see, right? Okay, like that. So this is the fifth of the chord, right? Because 6/4/3, 6 is invisible, which means that this is the root of the chord right there on F sharp, right? Oh, this is not F sharp, sorry, this is a D sharp, my bad. I'm reading things wrong. D sharp, in case you're wondering. Caught it, mistake. And then here is a G with nothing underneath it. So that would be a root chord right there. And then here is this note here, which is, again, 4/3, so it's the fifth of the chord, so A, right? Sharp, because of the key signature. Remember that in G sharp minor, it's B's and F sharps that don't have, or sorry, B's and what else? E's that don't have sharps. Everything else is sharp. And then back to this, which would be a D sharp, because it's just root position. All right. Here we go. So D sharp is my 5 chord. It's got this double sharped, right, which is the leading tone. So this is going to make it a dominant chord as opposed to a minor chord. D sharp, F double sharp, A sharp, C sharp, right? Okay, it's using the harmonic minor scale to give us a major 5 chord, which takes us to 1. 1s are minor. Okay, here's my D sharp chord again. Now, you can spell this all out and figure it out. This is my A. A third above it is my, or A sharp, is my D sharp. That's the 7th. A fourth above this is my, third above it is my C sharp, which is the 7th. Fourth above is the D sharp, which is the root. And then a sixth above is F sharp. And it's just sharp, not this. And I think the reason for that is a mistake on my part. Should have been double sharp, but, or maybe not. Maybe I'm trying to reinforce. Made this the other day. No, we'll just go to this. It's reminding ourselves that it's just sharp, not double sharp. So that means that this is going to be minor, right? Because D sharp, F sharp, and A sharp will make a minor triad, and then the minor 7th. Back to my 1 chord right here, like that, okay? This is an F sharp chord here, so F sharp, A sharp, C sharp. Yeah, these probably should have been double sharps, but we'll take it as standard anyways. So F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp, that's going to be a subtonic 7 chord, isn't it? Right? It's going to have that on there as well. Yep. Okay, and then G sharp again, it's 1. So A sharp chord, C sharp, and A sharp, C sharp, E sharp, with the 7th is G sharp. Looks like a minor chord. 2 chord, half diminished, because 2 chords are half diminished. Spelled that way. And back to this here, and there's no alterations here, so this is going to be a 5 chord, but it's going to be a minor 5 because D sharp, F sharp according to the key signature, and A sharp is a minor 5. I'll be honest, this one's kind of a little messed up. I mean, it's doable. These are redundant though, because that's a little maybe confusing. Okay. All right, here we go on, pushing forward. 2 more lines left. We're almost done. All right, so E flat minor. Okay, this is my E flat chord. This is also the root of the chord, right? So that would be a B flat chord. Now, remember, this is the 5th of the chord. 4/3 is the 5th of the chord, so that means it's another D flat chord right there, right? Looking at my key signature. This is the 6-5, means that's the third of the chord, and there's the seventh chord here. So there's my root right there. So back to E flat. Here's a 6-4-3. That's the same as a 4-3, right? So that's fifth of the chord, so it's a B flat chord. There's an alteration to one of the notes. We'll have to check that out when we come back, right? Then E flat is just the root right there. Here we have an A flat, but it's the third of a chord. 6-5 means third. So right there, it's my F chord, right? This is a root of the chord, it's B flat chord. Again, it's got that alteration happening there. And then here is the third of a chord. And so you come down here, it's still a B flat chord. And then here, well, this is the fifth of a chord, right? 6-4-3, right? Or 4-3, right? It's just got a seventh on it. So this is a fifth, so it's a B flat chord right there. And then here is the root of the chord, E flat. All right. If I were speed doing this now, I just go through and say, well, that's a minor 1, and that's a minor 1, and that's a minor 1. And then I'd find this other one here, and I'd say it's an inversion, and it's still a minor 1 with a seventh on it. And, you know, get those kind of things done quickly. Let's take a look at this right here. It's the seventh chord. It's on the fifth scale degree, and there's a natural right there on the invisible 5-3 on the 3 right there. So the third has been raised, so it's not B flat, D flat, F, A flat, but D natural because of that, which makes it a dominant chord, means we're going to put a large 5 right there because it's a dominant 7 chord. Okay, D flat chord right here, right? And so you go D flat, F, A flat, right? Have I done this wrong? I think I might have done this wrong. No, D flat, up a third, right? Will be my F and then G. What have I done here? I've messed this up. Maybe I called this wrong. Let me just relook at this again. 4-3, yeah, okay. So D flat is my 6-4-3 is the fifth of the chord. So D flat. So I'm going to have a D flat and F and A flat, right? And it looks like a C flat as well. It means that this here is natural. Right? Because a third above, yes, sorry, backwards and upside down, sorry for the pause. So D flat is my root, F is my third, right? And it's just plain old F. A flat is just the fifth of the chord right there, right? A flat. And then, so if we think about this from a figured bass point of view, if we're on D flat and we go up a third, that's my seventh, right? Which will be, or A flat, sorry. Then that'll be my C, right? Like that. Plain old C flat because of the key signature. And then if I go up to my fourth above that, that'll become a D and it will become D natural. So that's what's happening there, okay? Sorry, I'm letting this letter confuse me, right? But this is an A flat. And if we go up from there, again, the third is a C flat and there. So D, F, A flat, and C flat. It looks like a D, F, A flat's diminished. And then this is fully diminished, it looks like, doesn't it? So in the key of E flat, D flat fully diminished is 7 diminished. Okay, my bad, getting tired, of course. All right, we did this one. Coming back to here, F is the chord, or B flat's the chord, F's the fifth right there. And we have an altered note here. So let's figure this out from here as well. We have an F, you go up a third, it's A flat. You go up a fourth from the F, it's a B flat, which is why it's a B flat chord. And then you go up a sixth, it's a D, and it would be D flat in the key, but it's naturalized like that. So that's a B flat dominant 7, B flat, D natural, F, A flat. So that's a 5-7 chord there, okay? F6-5, well, this is my root. It's a 1 chord, there's no alterations, just like that. B flat chord, B flat, and then the third above is naturalized, D natural, and then F and A flat, so it's my 5-7 chord. This has also been just inverted right there, because B flat, D natural, F and A flat. We get to here, it's the same one as over here, Okay, I'm just going to run you through this again. If you're trying to figure out what's that modifying, well, let's take our F note, which is the given note, go up a third, that's my seventh, A flat because of the key signature, go up a fourth from the F, that's my B flat because of the key signature, it's my root, and you go up to the sixth, it's D flat because of the key signature, but then the natural cancels it out and becomes natural, so it's B flat, D, F, A flat, so it's still a 5 chord, so all of these are dominant 5 chords, like that. Oh yeah. One last one. Are you still with me? Clearly, I need to get something to drink or something to eat as well. But we'll get through this. A sharp. Everything is sharp. These double sharps here are probably going to be the leading tone when you take the harmonic minor and you make it G double sharp. Because remember that G sharp, according to the key signature, is subtonic 7. But G double sharp, which would be harmonic minor, right, will be the leading tone. Diminished chord, if you spell them out. All right. Well, here's a new one that we haven't seen before. 4-2 is a sort of medium hand version. So really short version is 2, medium version of shorthand is this, and then 6-4-2 is the full-on version. But when we don't use the notes, they fade away. This means that this is the 7th of a chord. Okay, and you can go down a 7th, but I just suggest going up a step, and that will tell you what your root is right there. So my root is E sharp, right? E sharp right there. Okay, here, this is the 5th of my chord, so that goes down to there. It's still an E sharp chord, right? Okay, and then here is a root position, A sharp, okay? And then here, this is the 3rd of the chord, so it's down to a G sharp, right? Down there like that. At least we think. We'll check that out, okay? But we'll have to think about that because we have this right here. I'll double check it with you. It's actually not going to be G sharp, but we'll talk about why later. This is the root of the chord, A sharp. Root of the chord, sorry, 3rd of the chord. So there's the root of the chord, A sharp again. So this is the 3rd of chord, G sharp. But again, it's got this double sharp here, which you're going to have to deal with in a minute. So these are actually wrong. But we'll start there because it's okay to get on the page and then sort of check it over. Then C sharp is the 3rd, so A sharp again. And this is the 3rd, so 7th chord, so B, right? Sharp, right? And then here is an E chord with a naturalized, that's a mistake, I think. Well, it's still weird. That's okay. We'll go E natural. Oh, it's going to be really, this is a mistake. It should just be like that. My bad. E natural, sorry, E with a natural would give us an E sharp and a G natural and then a B sharp. And that doesn't make any real chord at all. So this is a mistake right here, outright, not fixable. Just get rid of it, leave it like that. In fact, let's put it's supposed to be that, I think, double sharp, which would make this still be an E chord. Okay. All right. Let's figure these out. So if E sharp is the root of this chord, right? Let's just figure out from here. We have a D sharp. Up a second is E sharp. That's our root. Up a 4th from D sharp is G, which is sharp in the key signature, double sharp here. There's an invisible 6 floating there as well. Okay, the longhand version, right? So that would be B sharp. And that makes E sharp, G double sharp, B sharp, D sharp, which is my 5 chord for the key with a major triad right there. Okay. Here, we have sort of the same kind of deal. I can tell right away that it's going to be, if I've done this right, like making the worksheet, that it should work out. So here's my B, right? Sharp. And then if we go up a 3rd, that's D sharp. That's my 7th. If we go up a 4th, that's E sharp. That's my root. And if we go up a 6th from there, it's G sharp, but it's double sharp. So we have the same chord here, right? You start to see this again and again and again when you're interpreting figured bass like this. You'll see that, you know, the double sharp will be floating around and it will indicate that it's probably a 5 chord or a 1 chord in minor, or 7 chord in minor. Here's my 1 chord. All right. Here's where I said, well, maybe G sharp, but as we calculate it, you'll find that it's not. So remember that 6-5 is an abbreviated form of 6-5-3, right? Okay, that's the longhand version. It indicates that there's a 7th, sorry, it's a 7th in the chord, but it's still the 3rd of the chord right here. So let's spell it from our B sharp, right? B sharp. You go up a third, will be a D sharp in the key signature. Go up a fifth, will be an F sharp in the key signature. Go up a sixth, there's my root right there. And it's not G sharp, it's G double sharp. So G double sharp, B sharp, D sharp, F sharp is a G sharp diminished seventh chord. You might take a minute to figure that out, right? But G sharp diminished seventh chord is on my leading tone right there. So this is a 7 fully diminished 7 chord, right? Here's my A sharp chord, but on the third, so it's just the 1. This is that passing 7th chord right there. And then we do it again. 1. This is exactly the same as this. Remember that there's a floating 3 down there that we don't see because it's not. You sort of get lazy and don't write them in, and that makes this chord right here from the B. There's my B sharp, go up a third, go up a fifth, go up and get my double sharp. So it's another one of these 7 diminished 6s. This is another one of these ones right there. All right, so finally we get a B sharp chord here. There's no alteration, so it's going to be spelled B sharp, D sharp, F sharp, and A sharp. I'm just going to show you how that works again. Remember that 6-5 is really shorthand for 6-5-3. And so if we're on a D sharp right there and we go up a third, we get that note. If we go up a fifth, we get that note. And if we go up a sixth, we get that note right there. So that's a half diminished chord, isn't it? 2 chord, B sharp, no, yeah, B sharp chord 2, half diminished. And then here's my 1 chord. Again, I messed this up. Natural makes it nothing. It should have been a double sharp. I must have cut and paste kind of funny or something like that. If it's a double sharp, then this is E sharp, G double sharp, and G, and that's my 5 chord right there, like that, which would be dominant. Oh, made a mess of that. Worst thing is, I might not be able to use this video if I correct the worksheet. No, I probably will. I'll just correct the worksheet of a couple errors like that. All right, so there you go. Right, that's a lot of work. But we've tried doing reviews of figured bass in small chunks, and it feels like it needs a deeper dive. So you go through this enough times so that you rebuild those skills. It's not just a question of uncovering them. It feels like those figured bass, unless you're heavy into it a lot and use it all the time, is one of the first things we forget because it has less applicability to your everyday music activities. Seems germane to music theory activities rather than writing or reading, unless you're doing Baroque stuff. All right, well, that's almost 40 minutes. Like I said, hopefully this was useful in places for you, and I'll put this up and we'll see you in class.